dissipated.
The high desert of Southern California. The steep El Cajon Pass is the mountainous entryway to the Los Angeles basin. The Cajon Pass is one of the most difficult and notorious grades in the United States. Freight trains traveling down the pass can be a mile long and weigh up to 15,000 tons. As many as 100 trains a day struggle against the laws of gravity when navigating this treacherous route. More than 5,000 tons are pushing against the lead locomotive as the tracks dip down the 3.2% grade. It is a struggle the trains sometimes lose. On the morning of May 13th, 1989, a quiet neighborhood at the bottom of the 24-mile pass was rocked by an out-of-control train. A runaway freight train sailed down the Cajon Pass and careened off the tracks. As it plunged down a 30-foot embankment, it tore through 7 homes before coming to rest in a huge pile of twisted steel. Computer animation demonstrates how the accident occurred. The train hit the curve at 105 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour over the recommended speed. All 6 locomotives and 69 cars derailed.
I think the call came in as a traffic collision, and we rolled on it, and it was really different. We're looking for vehicles that had crashed into each other. Rounding the corner, we stopped, and it was just, you know, it's hard to fathom to see all these train cars that were just like, you know, stacked on top of each other.
The wreckage piled up in a grotesque heap of twisted metal. Hundreds of tons of sodium carbonate spilled from the cars into the yards, houses, and streets. The first rescue workers were met by a surreal scene. Smoking, twisted wreckage, destroyed homes, and confused and injured people.
All of the neighborhood people flocked to us, and everybody was yelling, screaming that there was people trapped in one house, and there was one house that was totally demolished, and all you could see was just the white potash over it.
Specially trained dogs were flown in to search for trapped survivors. The dogs located the scent of a man in this wreckage that moments before had been his home. After 15 hours of digging, the man was miraculously discovered alive under 10 feet of rubble.
Violence of a train car coming off of his tracks, going through a house like taking a matchstick or a toothpick and breaking it in half. There's no holding it back, nothing. I was totally in awe when I saw this, the destruction of those train cars. I mean, tons and tons of steel coming through your home. It was just unreal.
3 people were killed and 10 were hurt in the accident. An investigation revealed that the train's brakes failed because it was overloaded. It was a disaster no one thought would be repeated. But 13 days later, the same neighborhood was jolted by an exploding petroleum pipeline that had been damaged during the train accident. A geyser of flames shot nearly 300 feet into the air. The resulting fire killed 2 people and destroyed 11 more homes.
Everybody was running from the area. It was an intense heat. From a block away, it was so much heat, you didn't want to get any closer.
Five people died, 21 were injured, and property loss exceeded $14 million as a result of the accidents. The remains of the crushed houses were eventually cleared away, but the scars of the accident linger as a constant reminder of the disaster. While safety officials and the railroads debated what should be done to make the treacherous pass safer, another train lost control. On December 14, 1994, a Santa Fe freight train's brakes failed due to a blockage in the brake line. The runaway accelerated to 50 miles an hour before it crashed into a parked Union Pacific coal train. The two crew members survived but were severely injured when they leaped from the locomotive. The accident caused more than $4 million in damage and once again showed the need for better safety measures. However, action was not taken soon enough. 2 years later, just before dawn on February 1st, 1996, a freight train neared the summit of the Cajon Pass. The engineer brought the train to a halt and waited for the signal to proceed with his descent. As the train came down the mountain, it started to gain speed. The recommended speed going down the grade is 15 to 20 miles an hour. The engineer applied the train's air brakes, but it did not slow as it hit 40 miles an hour. He continued to apply pressure to the brakes. Nothing slowed the train. It reached nearly 65 miles per hour when it hit a sharp curve. The train hurtled from the rails and exploded into a fireball.
Here was about a 3.5, 4-story high pile of what had been rail cars. It was like somebody dug a hole and just kept shoving them in. And they were sitting there all helter-skelter in this pile, and the fire was just phenomenal. I've seen very few fires that looked as incredible as this one.
If you can imagine a mass of burning, tangled wreckage on a football field that's about 4 stories high, you can imagine what we saw.
Computer animation shows the 4 locomotives and 49 cars jumping the tracks and the resulting fire. Toxic chemicals spewed from the burning wreck. Fearing that a toxic cloud would spread, the main artery between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, Interstate 15, was shut down for more than 30 hours, and nearby homes were evacuated.
We obviously didn't want anybody driving through that cloud in case there was some very toxic or poisonous properties in the smoke.
Two of the 3 crewmen were killed when they jumped from the runaway train. One of the victims was the brakeman, Kevin Williams, who died upon impact. The other victim, Gilbert Ortiz, was consumed by the blazing inferno that resulted from the wreck. A memorial to the crewman now overlooks the accident site. The engineer, Lester Foster, stayed on board the train and lived. An investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board determined that the probable cause of the accident was a blocked brake hose. A train's brakes are applied using air that is pumped the length of the train. If one of the air hoses is blocked, the air pressure can't get through, and all the cars behind the obstruction are left without brakes. As a result of the derailment that occurred in 1996, all trains are now equipped with an end-of-train, or EOT, device. The EOT is a brake valve that allows the engineer to apply the brakes from the rear of the train by radio command.
Today, we have requirements that require that these trains have two-way end-of-train devices. And that these two-way end-of-train devices be operational. So today, the Cajon accident could not happen. And since that accident, the Santa Fe has just been wonderful in the different initiatives that they've put together to make sure that trains coming down this hill are brought down safely.